crypto asset? Bitcoin's the best crypto asset. Which one's the best crypto asset? Bitcoin's the best crypto asset. Which one's the best? 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 What's the second best?
This is Discover Crypto. I'm your host, DZ, and every day on this channel, we teach you how to make money with digital assets, especially Bitcoin. And today, we got to talk about the Nasdaq, adding 4 altcoins, XLM, Cardano, Solana, and a mystery player to the stock exchange. Is this going to pump these altcoins? Is this going to give us the alt season we have been waiting for? And the money looks like it's finally coming off the sidelines. I'm here with TJ today. Josh is in the LA riots right now.
Yeah, he's caught up in the fire, traffic, hazard craziness going on. But good morning, everybody in the Disco fam. Nothing like a Monday morning pump. Absolutely loving it. Feels good. Seeing signs of life out of altcoins. Bitcoin moving up to back towards 108 almost, right? Looking
yeah, let's pull up this screen here. Yeah, Bitcoin with a nice little pump. These are just the 1 minute candles, mind you, but yeah, Bitcoin just going on a run this morning about 9:55 a.m. You know, nice little blast off there, pumped literally $1,000 to the penny there. That is a very interesting. Pumps 1,000, then starts maybe potentially crashing, but starting around 5:30 this morning, Bitcoin just went on a run. We're gonna go to the 5 minute candles here. Yeah, you can see that. Look at that magnificent run Bitcoin went on. This is 4:20. Okay, what's up with these degens out here? 4:20 a.m. Bitcoin started to go on a little run and pumping about $2,500 in a short amount of time. TJ, why weren't you up at 4 a.m. longing Bitcoin?
I missed it by just a little bit. Yeah, as soon as I woke up, I checked my chart. I was like, dang, I got an early start to it. I guess you could say that's the Asian hours. That's the late night, Sunday night pumps. Usually if you see a late Sunday night pump, a lot of times we should see a strong week. I know last few weeks ago we had 3, I think, Sunday night pumps in a row, and all led to a really strong week. So yeah, looking good to looking forward to a good week this week. Some good news: CPI, PPI. We got trade talks going on, all sorts of stuff. So let's see. We got somebody on X talking about realizes. What is going on? No better than banks.
Yeah, and if you are a member, we see your things pop up a little bit more bright, a little bit more colorful here. Dylan K, Fartcoin is outpacing most other cryptos.
It sure is.
Well, I did do a 50x long, probably about to close it. I didn't do Fartcoin, though. I did Pepe.
Okay.
Pepe, we're up about 65%. I kind of want to just maybe go ahead and close this while we're live here. And I threw $100 on XLM. We're going to talk about the XLM news. We're only up a little bit. I might let this one ride for a bit here, but let's look at the rest of the crypto market caps here. We're going to hit refresh, make sure we got all the freshest data. Bitcoin with a nice 2% pump at this point, and XRP looking a little flat. XRP is down 0.4%. We minted $1 billion worth of Tether this morning, minted it on Tron. They apparently weren't buying Tron with that Tether. Tron's down 1.2%. Cardano, a little bit of a pump here. Solana with the nice 3% pump there, and Hyperliquid climbing and climbing and climbing. Looks like it passed SWE over the weekend. Hype is now up 5.8% on the day, up 12% on the week. And so just kind of passing a lot of its peers, trying to knock out, let's just say the wrapped coins here, trying to knock out Cardano and Tron out of the top 10 there. Chainlink looking kind of flat. But let's look at the big gainers today. SPX 6,900. I know there's some Solana meme coin buyers on the sidelines here. And Fartcoin, geez, with the 13%, I should have definitely long Fartcoin. It's up 3.4% now. Bonk, yeah, we're seeing a lot of altcoins starting to run today.
SPX almost back to all-time highs, actually. But BitTensor and Virtual's there when the AI. I know 2 of those that you pointed out recently as
That's
AI
the last altcoin I bought. Yeah, we're talking about this late last week, so looks like we got lucky again, folks. You got to be paying attention. You got to hit those like buttons and turn on notifications for this channel.
Yeah, well, and I'd say it's a little bit more than luck. It's almost like we know what we're doing, but yeah, I always say I'd rather be lucky than good. But nice to see a lot of the channel favorites moving there. And yeah, Solana getting a good recovery on a lot of those meme coins, which usually means we could be going back into a risk-on type environment. So, if we get rate cuts, if we get some bullish news coming out of the China-U.S. trade talks this week, I still think, and we were looking at that in the Discord this morning, we were doing a private member stream, me, Kelly, and Drew, and we were looking at the trends for the cycle. And there's a lot that says the next 180 days can be very, very, very strong for Bitcoin. So you can expect this last 6 months of this year to see a lot of bullishness. That's what lines up not only with the traditional 4-year cycle and the days from the halving, but as well as a lot of other macroeconomic things going on right now. So,
all right. And if you're wondering, is DZ going to 50x short Fartcoin? I'm not going to get sharded out here. We might wait for a little bit of weakness in the RSI. Maybe we'll all jump in. I'll jump in. Do not follow me into these calls. This is craziness. This is crazy town. You want to stay away from this. Now, we do have some analysts out there kind of pointing out some of the same drawings we've been putting out. And Caleb Franzen pointed out something on this head and shoulders. Now, this head and shoulders, I drew this out, how long ago, TJ? Might have been 2 weeks ago.
Couple weeks, yeah.
And so, we kind of saw, pretty clear head and shoulders. More and more analysts are starting to jump in on this. But Caleb, I want to give him his shout out here, pointed out something important, bouncing right off this 200-day. I think this is the EMA. And I pulled that up. That is right here. Yeah, you can see it bouncing beautifully. And so, I did have a lower prediction for the right shoulder. Now that I saw that, maybe this is heading to the upside, I did readjust this a little bit. So I did have about 92, 93. That might be the bottom of the shoulder, TJ. So I'm just putting it on people's radars here. I'm starting to feel less likely we scam wick down to 92, then bounce to create the rest of the right shoulder. Shoulder might be jerking at this point, TJ.
Yeah, no, that's consistent. Kelly and Drew were looking at very similar patterns. Not saying it's not impossible to wick down into those 90s and complete that pattern, but that's where we started talking about the way the trend works. And a lot of people have been comparing it to a Wyckoff accumulation, kind of the overall pattern. And we really are seeing like a move up and accumulation, consolidation, move up, consolidation, just very systematically moving up. And there's a lot of things pointing now that where we're going to see a much more healthy rise in this market and much less drawdowns and just grind our way up where we rise up to the 120 level and then we chop around there for a while, then up to 150 and then we consolidate around there and we just slowly hit new levels and consolidate, hit new levels and consolidate. One thing, we were all sitting around Friday afternoon talking in the office here, I think it was the 4 or 5 of us, about how there's a lot of things that are different about this cycle. Each cycle has kind of little different variations. This one, we're going to talk about this a little bit more as the week goes on, kind of what's coming with all of these treasury plays and stock. All these public companies are kind of like the new Meta as far as altcoins go, like Meta Planet and 21 Capital and MicroStrategy and all those things. But the other thing that kind of came away from that conversation that was big was one thing that I think is very different about this cycle compared to last is the market makers. And we talk about market makers controlling the markets a lot and setting liquidation levels and, kind of helping control rise and falls of the Bitcoin prices. But but those have been crypto market makers for the most part. And for the first time ever really in crypto, we've got real big money market makers, people that are used to being market makers for global liquidity around the world, old money. This is, they're used to setting the gold market and the oil market and markets that are much larger than the Bitcoin market. So I think part of those factors is part of why we're seeing a much more controlled, steady climb up. And the more we have to wait and see how it continues to play out throughout the back half of this year. If we see a very steady, measured growth the back half of this year, I really believe that's going to give me more indication that 2026 and an extended cycle, we're going to see that play out as these market makers kind of slowly move us up. Yeah, we see you on Rumble talking about silver pumping, Sergeant. So yeah, silver actually catching up for the first time in a long time. But
yeah, it's about time. And we've been talking about that gold silver parity and that ratio. And I made some predictions that it is going to start switching. I did not put capital into silver. I was buying Aave and Bitcoin instead. But nothing wrong with buying some silver. Yeah, the old market makers, TJ, was a cabal Discord group of whales that would just, hey, let's sell $5 million worth of Bitcoin, dump the market. That was your sophisticated market maker cycles past. Now it's Aladdin AI bots, fueled by billions of dollars of liquidity.
Well, even if you think about it like this, you're going from Binance's market maker to BlackRock's. That's going to be a big, Binance is a very huge player. They definitely have a lot of power when it comes to setting the market within crypto. But when you're talking about Fidelity, when you're talking about BlackRock, when you're talking about BNY Mellon and Schwab, it's just a whole other level of liquidity and money and sophistication and experience when it comes to managing markets. And people don't like to think about that, but that's the reality that we're in. Is we are a market. It is being managed. And it's going to the upside. They know that. They just don't want it to be a runaway train because they don't want to break all the other markets in the meantime. You can't have all like kind of like what's happening in Japan right now. All the capital's flooding into one stock at the same time. It's more or less collapsing a bunch of companies over there with MetaPlanet. It's like the only reliable stock on their exchange. They don't want to see that happen globally where all the money rushes out of treasuries and all the money rushes out of real estate and you get collapsing markets everywhere and one that runs away. They want it to kind of control steady climb up. And that's what I think we're experiencing.
Yeah, no, speaking of experiencing, make sure you're still experiencing life. We get a little glued into these screens. Naive just got a good take here. Stop thinking about crypto market. Get outside and touch some grass. And so, we're recommending you get outside, folks. Get outside. Oh, that's the outside, though. So, you know what? Sometimes you just got to be locked in during this bull market, during this bull phase, and really make some life-changing wealth here. Now, I throw that out there, just say, both sides. Jason Casper's chicken went down to LA and just want to let you guys know it's not as close as widespread as they are broadcasting.
No.
LA County's very large, though.
Huge.
Very large. I say
Huge.
one block is enough. One block is enough. That's my take there. Well, let's get back to the crypto news here. Someone's saying 108. 108. Let's just check in. Yeah.
Look at that.
108. Look at
Let's
that. Bitcoin
go.
just climbing and climbing and climbing. We go to the 1 minute. It looks a little bit more exciting
That's
here.
a good week, man.
Get rid of that head and shoulders. Now, just kind of look at some previous levels we might need to pay attention to. Looks like kind of coming around to this point of control right here. I would say the next point of control going to be a little bit above 109. You can see it kind of cooling down here, using as support, using as resistance. Then we have another little level at 110. And then, of course, there's going to be a lot of volatility right at the new all-time high, which is just a hair under 112. So just some areas to pay attention to when it comes to Bitcoin. But, yeah, it's a nice-looking chart there. V-shaped recovery. We called the V-shaped recovery. But boy, oh, boy, I didn't expect it to be I didn't expect this to blast past this part right here, TJ. I expected maybe a little bit of a volatility there, a little bit of a turnaround. But now it's just kind of, what's the next stop? 115?
Yeah, I mean, I think we go back up to around 112. We're going to have those previous all-time highs again, right? That's about where we were before. And that's kind of what I'm saying. I think we're going to continue. The trend is objectively up for this period that we're in right now. Like it is going, we are trending up and to the right generally. So I'm looking to long dips. I'm not as much looking to short pumps. Now, I'm not saying we're consolidating, we're going to chop. But now, if we're up in that 108 range, we're clearly. I wish I had the ranges they were looking at this morning, but we're right back in, a consolidation range, really between 108 and 112. So we'll probably grind up to 112. Maybe, that's what's great about Bitcoin. 112 sounds great by the end of this week, but it could do it by tomorrow morning. It can.
Look at the last V-shaped recovery. A little bit of a cool down right below, and then just went way past it, just like this. A little bit of a cool down right below. And then, could this move that we're seeing right now, let me go ahead and draw it out just to make it a little bit more clear. I mean, could this move look like this move?
Yeah, I think it could. I mean, we could be at 120 a lot sooner than we think.
I'm liking it.
Yeah. Well, and again, like we kind of glossed over last week, but ECB, the central bank in Europe, cut rates last Thursday, I think it was too. So we're going to start to see that liquidity flow into the market again. So the more you see these big banks, these central banks cutting rates, it's not just the Fed. We always have to remind you guys, like when the Fed cuts, it's definitely going to impact everything. But when the Bank of Japan cuts, when ECB cuts, when the People's Bank of China cuts, that all is liquidity flowing back into the market. So as long as that M2, we should go look at maybe in just a minute, I'll go look for the latest M2 Bitcoin.
Yeah, the correlation, see how well it's matching everything.
We're supposed to be pumping the next few weeks. So, we're right on track.
Someone asking about Chainlink. I got to tell you something about Chainlink whales towards the end of the stream. So if you're thinking about buying some Chainlink, stick around for that for sure, everybody. Let's get back to Nasdaq adding altcoins that might create the next alt season here. I got the details. So it's Nasdaq proposing to add an XRP, Solana, and more to the crypto index amid regulatory shifts here. So they formally submitted this proposal to the SEC, and they're adding 4 new altcoins to their flagship Nasdaq crypto index. So they're going to be adding XRP, Solana, Cardano, XLM. So before we get into the rest of the article, obviously, I think the surprising one is going to be XLM. It's a little bit further down in market cap. If you just want to look at it under that metric there, what are you surprised that they haven't added, TJ? Because they have Bitcoin and ETH already.
They got Bitcoin, ETH. XRP, Solana, Cardano,
We can go
Stellar.
to the market caps here.
Yeah. I mean, what else is
I
missing?
mean, they're not going to add BNB.
No.
Too foreign owned there.
Not going to add
Doge,
Tron. They're
not going to add
add
Dogecoin or Tron. I mean, maybe Doge. I would say Chainlink or Avalanche. I'm surprised they chose XLM over Chainlink or Avalanche.
True, or SWI. I mean, SWI's getting a lot of that, kind of institutional
Enough to
focus.
grease some palms there.
But I think XLM just slides in due to XRP, and I in a lot of ways, that's the more interesting token to me. XLM, they've got a RWA angle to play. They ride on the political capital that Ripple has built up. So to me, if you're looking at a Ripple product that you'd rather hold, and maybe you could, I guess XLM isn't technically a Ripple product, but I prefer XLM over XRP, just because it tends to mirror a lot of what XRP does. When XRP pumps, like when you guys can go back and look, when XRP moved back in November, December around election time, XLM was right there and had massive pumps not long after.
What about Piss Missile here? The XRP cartoon said this would happen. They said a lot of things were going to happen too.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm still waiting on that $589 XRP. That'd be pretty nice, though. That'd be pretty nice. Just don't see it happening. Now, if they approve these 4 altcoins, this would be a huge expansion beyond the current Bitcoin and ETH coverage, bringing the total index to 6 here. Now, currently, restrictions have limited the ETF to holding only Bitcoin and Ethereum, despite the market demand for broader access. Now, the SEC, here's the dates, though, is reviewing the proposal. It's a 19B4 rule, and they're expected to deliver a decision by November 2nd, 2025. So we got a little bit of ways: July, August, September, October, November. But in crypto, 5 months. I mean, you'll wake up from a long nap and then 5 months passes in crypto. So this is pretty exciting stuff. I'll say Wall Street. Do you think BlackRock waits until November 2nd to start buying these 4 altcoins? Or, they're cronies, they're friends, they're the people that they play badminton with on the weekend. Are they going to wait till November 2nd to start buying these altcoins, TJ?
No, I mean, a lot of them, I'd say, are already accumulating, have allocations, have exposure. That's why they're getting the attention that they are. So, I mean, there's a reason. There's a lot of these people have been, laddering into and building their positions for a long time. And then you see the money come up behind getting them introduced into all these indexes, into all these different types of vehicles for money to flow into. And I really think that's what you need to be paying attention to this cycle. I think more than anything this time, guys, it's like each cycle has its altcoin variation that happens, whether it was, the ICOs back in the day,
2017, 2018. Yeah.
Then you had meme coins a lot in 20, had NFTs.
DeFi 2020, then meme coins, Q1, Q2, 21.
And then NFTs were a big thing in 21. And there was always kind of different brands of the way that they were raising this new capital or new money was flowing in. And I think this time it's going to be through vehicles that can tap into the traditional markets, stock market type stuff, ETFs. We've seen a lot of. We've seen here. I'll show this. This is something I wanted to emphasize anyway. For people that were talking about, are they too late to buy Bitcoin? This one here. This is what we're going to be tapping into here. So here's Bitcoin up here, by the way, guys. Are you too late to buy Bitcoin? No. This is the amount of value that's in Bitcoin, $2 trillion. This is how much is in the stock market or equities, securities, real estate, bonds, money supply. So huge. This is just gold right here, 16 trillion. So huge amount of money or capital that is not in this market right now. So massive amounts of growth ahead of us. So you can just get that "am I too late" out of your mind. No, I actually haven't even bought that MSTY yet, TZ's Chrysler, but I do think, but this is the reason I think these vehicles are going to matter, because the money out of bonds we know is talking about flowing into Bitcoin. A lot of money out of securities and equities we're talking about flowing into Bitcoin. So it's really, and then this 120 trillion money supply right here. These all of these are starting to flow into this tiny little box right here. And so that box is going to grow exponentially. And the ones that can tap into these things the fastest are things that already have regulatory approval and clarity, like MetaPlanet, like what MicroStrategy is doing, like these index funds, like these ETFs. What they're trying to do is open up a giant pipeline to move the money from these markets into this market. And that's where we're going to see the explosive growth. And I think that's the main difference we're going to see this cycle. We're going to see tons.
So go back to that. Someone's saying those sizes aren't accurate. I think they are.
I mean,
Looks pretty accurate to me.
I mean, I'm sure you could argue that they're not perfectly to scale, but I mean, this is just to get a visual representation. It's roughly about right. I mean, you're saying,
yeah, it looks good to me.
This one's close to a third of this one. This one's, they're saying, like, I think you could
need
actually,
someone with autism. Like, it really has that good spatial reasoning.
It looks pretty dang accurate. So, but the point is, there's $900 trillion of total assets out there. There's $2 trillion in Bitcoin right now. And there's a long way to go when it comes to growth in this sector. And I think the main place it's going to come from this time is going to be, these other markets. And so keep that in mind. And this is shout out to Altcoin Daily. Great graph. I'm probably going to use that a lot to reference for.
Yeah, shout out to Austin Aaron. Make sure you go check out their channel. And I'm trying to manifest. I want to get on stage with Austin Aaron at Rare Evo.
Yeah.
Maybe talk to some panels out there. That'd be pretty cool. But, one of the reasons we're seeing all the pumps today, it's Trump and China. It's the U.S. trade talks here. I just want to give you some details. China and U.S. trade officials are holding talks in London this morning. And so they're meeting with their Chinese counterparts for talks. It's Scott Bessent, Howard Lutnick, and a trade representative, Jameson Greer. And they're meeting with China's vice premier, He Lifeng, and Beijing's lead trade negotiator there. Now, the purpose of the meeting today is to make sure that they're serious, but to literally get handshakes and get this thing behind us. He added that he expected a short meeting with a big, strong handshake. So they're putting out very positive vibes here and suggesting that we might be coming to a deal, coming to terms. And this is going to be a great, great liquidity move for, I would say, everything. Stock's going to go up. Maybe gold and silver act a little flat, but I expect Bitcoin, altcoins, stocks, everything to tremendously benefit if they can actually iron out some strong details today. Prediction, TJ, does it end with the strong handshake or even the Trump handshake where he pulls it?
God. It will end soon. I don't know if it's going to end today or this week. I do think the fact that we saw some late night pumps and some pretty significant price action this morning could be some foreshadowing, some people that have some insider information.
Yeah, I think that 4:30 a.m. pump or 5 a.m. pump was just like, all right, so they're like actually walking in the building now.
Yeah.
It's probably like 8 a.m. London time or so.
Now, that being said, we have seen almost every single time they come out and they kind of tease something when it comes to these things, and then the actual news comes out and price immediately corrects. So I wouldn't rule that out at all. But I do think, I've said this the whole time, I think a lot of this is noise. It will either way, whether it gets resolved today, this week, Friday, June, July, this summer. I've said the whole time I think it will get resolved this summer. I don't know what the actual deadlines they have right now. They've moved them so many times, but it will resolve soon. And then once it does, we're already seeing printing all over that's leading to the money supply increasing, prices kicking up. And I did pull this chart up. It actually is very much in line with what you were showing on the Bitcoin price chart, DZ. Look, we're right here.
We got another giant leg up.
Yeah, we're
that might
due
be the
for
beginning.
that leg up, just like you just said. The little V shape, boom, another leg up. So yeah, we could be moving to 120K plus Bitcoin, into this range right here very quickly. So I would not shock me if maybe we move up to even past it, 125, and then pull back down to 120. But a lot of that will be happening this summer as this news rolls out, gets done, rates get cut, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think. I don't think it happens necessarily today, but maybe they come out and say, hey, we made a big step forward. We're going to work on final details. But I do think it resolves very soon.
We got is the dress white and gold or blue and black? We have the box sizes look good. Maybe the comment was for themselves. And then strong comment here. People thinking the box sizes were good are mad.
Yeah.
So was the dress blue or black or white and gold?
All right, let us know. I guess if you guys are watching this later, let us know in the comments. And if you can, go leave a comment as soon as this ends. Were the box sizes correct?
Wuhan scientists calibrate their instruments to those box sizes. Okay, those are very, very accurate. I don't know why I chose that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, don't. That's not good.
All right, folks. If you could hit the like button, what I just said is probably going to have the YouTube overlords a little bit peeved at us. So if we could really, really benefit, if you just want to spend an extra second and smash that like button, I want to see the likes start skyrocketing, everybody, because I just pissed off the overlords there. But the overlords, some would say Tether's the ultimate crypto overlord. They just printed $1 billion this morning. Maybe that's why we're actually pumping. And if you look, oh my God, right at 5:20 a.m. So maybe maybe it's the trade talks, maybe it's Tether, maybe it's
there's some
Confluence.
correlation.
Yeah, maybe it's all tied in together there. Now, always be wary of crazy crypto statistics. River Financial now say more Americans own Bitcoin than gold. And I have some issue with 50 million Americans. I just like this. It's impossible that 50 million Americans own Bitcoin. That is definitely not true. And then they don't count rings, gold rings. Like, I guess they want like actual gold investments there.
Huh. Why do you say impossible? How many Americans are there total?
I mean, if you go to the DMV, I like to say DMV, just a snapshot of America. Yes, 100 people, do you have Bitcoin? 50 million, 300 million be roughly 1 in 6. 1 in 6 is going to be about 17. There's no way you go to the DMV and 17 out of 100 have Bitcoin. I would give you upwards of close to 10, but I would say it's less than 10 people.
Yeah. I guess I would say
it's not the DMV.
I would have said 10 would have been my guess too.
I mean, there's a lot of Americans over the age of 60. I think they have a very, very low percentage of Bitcoin ownership, and I think so many of them just stay at home all day and watch Wheel of Fortune. We're not even aware of the real snapshot of America.
I wonder where does it say any? I guess there's no like source there.
I remember when it first came out because I remember bringing up the ring issue then.
Yeah.
Like, do they not count rings?
They must not count rings, obviously, because tons of people have gold rings.
Yeah. Now we have a breakdown of paper Bitcoin. Now, this is pretty interesting here. It's simple. This is from Josh Mandel. I know TJ, I started following him after you started saying something. The guy is pretty smart here. Short seller. So who the hell is doing this paper Bitcoin? If we don't hit a new all-time high soon, I'm fully convinced there's so much paper Bitcoin being traded and bought, it's becoming scammy. There's no way all these companies claiming they're buying millions and billions of dollars is true without movement. And so he breaks it down. Short sellers of IBIT, for example, are creating paper Bitcoin. It happens through operational short selling, where market makers borrow ETF shares and short them while the fund itself holds real Bitcoin. The result, more claims on Bitcoin than actual coins. If you think about how a short operates, opening a short creates a buy pressure. But with this example, there is no buy pressure for opening a short. And so, I don't know. What are your thoughts on paper Bitcoin?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different angles of it. A lot of people are concerned that what MicroStrategy is doing, since they're not giving proof of reserves, might be, issuing more and more shares for, more shares saying backed by Bitcoin than there actually are. I don't necessarily believe that's happening. I do think, with the point you just illustrated, there's a lot of contracts of people getting exposure, a lot of the futures market, basically, like you just mentioned, you're getting exposure to the price volatility of Bitcoin without actually holding the underlying asset themselves.
Yeah, I don't think it applies to corporate balance sheets. I could see it applying to, like you said, operational, like leveraging.
Yeah, so does that exist? Sure, but I mean, there's that exists with any market. If you can go long or short on it, there's going to be paper contracts. So the good news is more and more,
like GME short sellers. Remember the GameStop short sellers? They're like shorting more than there were shares or something.
Yeah. The good news is most of these ETFs are starting to get to where they can hold in kind, trade in kind, actually settle in kind. So all of that requires more and more people holding Bitcoin. But the bottom line is, the main thing I've learned this cycle that I want other people to take away from this is patience when it comes to Bitcoin. This market isn't going anywhere. For years past, there have been some questions about how long is this going to be here? Is it going to be truly adopted at scale? Does it have potential to truly become a global reserve currency? Now, I would say largely those questions have been answered. They've definitely been answered in my mind, and they've been answered, I would say, in a lot of other people's minds that are a lot more substantial, a lot more powerful than people like us. But bottom line is, Bitcoin is going to grow a lot over time. It is an asymmetric investment that we're seeing incredible returns on. And at this point, patience is going to be the #1 name of the game. If you can slow down and just slowly accumulate more and more and more, and think of Bitcoin in a 10 to 20 year time horizon versus a 1 to 2 year time horizon, you're going to be set up for life. And as long as you can do that and just buckle in, now's the time you can just kind of ride this wave, and you don't really have to worry about the short-term movements. You don't really, and over the next 10 to 20 years, the reason I say that is because it doesn't really matter if there's paper Bitcoin being sold. All of the real Bitcoin, the people that understand the value of holding actual real Bitcoin in self-custody, that's going to get gobbled up. We're already seeing it at an incredible rate. And over the next 10 years, we're going to see that increase exponentially. And then all of the real Bitcoin will be held by people that will then be rich and powerful. And yeah, they will lend against it. They will borrow against it, and they will do everything they can to not hold on to it. And that's going to create paper Bitcoin. That's just the reality of the way the market works. So you want to be one of those people that's holding Bitcoin. And then, yeah, you're writing a contract and telling somebody, yeah, based on, these price fluctuations and all this, I could buy or sell at these levels. And, but I'm not ever actually letting go of my Bitcoin. That's the way you want to be framing your mindset for the future. Don't be trying to cash out next year. I mean, if you want to take some profits here or there, take some profits. But if you want to be, you should be thinking about this to fix your retirement, to fix, changing your generations, your bloodline, all that sort of stuff. Do not think about what can we do with this money next year. That's my
yeah. And it better be like, first car, first home, what is it? I think I'm okay saying this. Jay Chains, he bought IVF treatment and has a beautiful daughter, So if you're buying life, I mean, that's, take profits. Just be careful out there, folks. Someone saying, talk about Saylor here. Saylor should have kids who will inherit his empire. And then someone else bringing up, well, Saylor's coins will go with him, is what he said. So he said his personal coins will go with him, not MicroStrategy's giant account.
Obviously.
So big difference there. But he probably has a fairly large Bitcoin stack, I would say. What do you think about that? If you don't have kids, just letting your keys die with you to make Bitcoin more deflationary. Should we see more of that, or give it to tip the nice cashier or the nice hospice nurse on your deathbed?
I mean, that's a whole different discussion. I think anybody who's accumulated a certain amount of wealth over their life should have a say in how it gets distributed. That's not for me to say. I mean, I think everybody has their own style. If he wants to take it to the grave with him, I
demand you go to the grave with your keys.
Yeah, I mean, if he wants to take it to the grave with him, that's his prerogative, right? I mean, I'm sure there's people close to him that might feel differently.
God, he has a nephew who's like, oh man, why?
Yeah, exactly. So, there's a lot of people that have a lot of opinions on that, and they put a lot more time and thought into it. I have read a little bit about Warren Buffett's strategy and the way he plans to move a lot of his fortune and kind of have his kids direct it, and kind of what he
different than Bill Gates, who's like the kids get nothing basically.
It's very different. I think he's
wife gets half, the kids get nothing.
He's put a really thoughtful approach into it. I mean, that's more or less what he sees his kids' main job is, to kind of direct that wealth, and he's put a lot of effort into training them for that. But he's also acknowledges it's a pretty big weight to carry. So I don't know. I like his approach, but there's a lot of different ways to do it.
If I was Bill Gates' kid, I'd be like, Mom, don't listen to Dad. Okay, you give us some money. GM, I love Arrow. Thinking about borrowing against Bitcoin on base and getting $500 of Arrow since Arrow lags behind Bitcoin moves. Risky, yes. YOLO. There's someone just taking advantage of the base ecosystem and the Aerodrome DeFi ecosystem and acknowledging that it is risky. Everything that gives good rewards is going to give great risk, and that's just how it works, folks. There's no free lunch out there. Let's see here. If we Sonic, we'll talk about Sonic here. All right, let's talk about strategy though. Let's roll into strategy news here. Strategy adding 1,000 Bitcoin for about 110 million. The latest purchase. I got the totals. Now have 582,000. Remember, 630 is 3%. So he's beyond 2%, and he's moving on to 3% of all Bitcoin. That is insane. And so the 1,000 puts them, they got to average 105,426 per coin. They now have 582,000 Bitcoin. They spent $40.8 billion, and the average price $70,086 per Bitcoin. And then right on the heels of that, and so that was only $110 million. Remember, now Metaplanet raising $5.4 billion by amassing. Now they want to amass 210K Bitcoin by 2027. So they're trying to get, their 1% share here. So massive buying. Michael Saylor, though, has I would say, prediction here about quantum computing here. He said this is a ploy by yo-yo token sellers here. He says, even if a legitimate quantum computing threat emerged from a tech giant, Michael Saylor says it won't be released. So according to Project 11, 10 million Bitcoin addresses have exposed public keys, and more than 6 million could be at risk if the machines become powerful enough to crack the Bitcoin elliptical curve cryptography keys. But even if this legitimate quantum threat emerged from a tech giant, they wouldn't release it, as doing so would put their business and even the U.S. government at risk, according to Michael Saylor. Google and Microsoft aren't going to sell you a computer that cracks modern cryptography because it would destroy Google and Microsoft and the US government and the banking system. What do you think about that prediction? If Google Research develops a quantum computer, they would never release it to the public. Do you believe that prediction?
Yeah, release it to the public, definitely. I mean, I wouldn't
I
say
agree.
never.
I
I
would
would get
agree.
rid of the word never, but not until the time is right. So if there was a computer out there that could break all encryption known to man, that would definitely not be something released into the public. It would probably be something held under. I mean, it would basically be like a nuclear type weapon. I mean, because obviously, if it could break all encryption, you could hack anybody's nuclear codes. You could do whatever you wanted with it. You could hack every bank account. You could hack every system that ever existed ever. So yes, the odds of that's not going out into the wild, and most likely it's going to be used to create new types of encryption, right? And so that isn't hackable or breakable, and it's going to be adapted and updated, and that's the reality we see. Just like they used to say, the latest computer could hack every password. Well, what happens? Our passwords have gotten better. And then when those computers could hack those passwords, we came up with encryption. And so, yeah, technology evolves and it pushes other forms of technology to evolve along with it. So I agree.
I shouldn't even share this because it's bad operational security. It's bad OPSEC. My Blizzard account. What's Blizzard's thing
Skynet
called?
or BattleNet.
BattleNet.
Yeah.
Dude, the password for that is like so laughably bad. It's like doesn't have a symbol. It's like short. I'm like, how the hell did you guys even make how'd you allow me to use this as a password
Exactly.
20 years ago, 15 years ago?
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's because things were much less sophisticated back then. Now, yeah, it requires a certain amount of characters, special characters, numbers, capital, all this different stuff. And it's because it's just adapting. And so I think same will happen with quantum. I think we'll have new, hashing algorithms. We'll have new ways of doing it. We've got multi-sig. There's a lot of other
lost
things
my
out there.
BattleNet. Oh no, he's in. Project Cordy's in.
He's gonna be playing StarCraft 2 all night on trying to grind his way back into silver, I guess.
Yeah, do the Zergling rush.
Yeah,
Okay, then
yeah.
I won't be mad. All right. BattleNet. What else? Is it just StarCraft
No,
Live?
World of Warcraft.
World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tried that for like all of 2 days back in like 2018 or something when they, I guess, re-released it or something. Couldn't get into it. Did you ever do the MMO RPG?
No, I knew I'd be sucked in immediately. I saw it when I was young, and I watched a friend play it for a few hours, and I knew I'd be like addicted all in. I'm an all or nothing kind of person. So
That's old blast from the past. That you'd get a CD case.
Oh, heck
and you
yeah.
like open it and have some like 16-digit thing.
I remember that from like your original StarCraft Brood War Blizzard stuff. That's right. Yeah, you'd have it on the CD. That's wild.
We have not got to the Chainlink and the whale news on Chainlink. We're getting to it. First, let's talk about ETH. We'll move down the market cap rankings here. I want to just put a little something on your radar here. Then I'll read your super chat. ETH price analysis is $3,000 Ethereum insight this month. So recently faced, this is what we need to look at, the 200-day moving average at $2.6 thousand. And so I decided to pull that up here, and when you start looking on the smaller time frame, starts looking a little bit more important. So the 200-day simple moving average is going to be this blue line right here, and you see we keep rejecting off of it. But look, when you go to the 4-hour, that's when you really start to see some strength here. I mean, there's that one brief time we tried to close 1 or 2 candles above it, then quickly got shot down as the bears were firmly in control. And then the last wicks rejected against it as well. And so I just want to put this number on your radar. Expect a lot of volatility right around 2660. And so this is going to be the next speed bump for Ethereum. So keep an eye out on that, because it seems like Ethereum is keeping an eye out on that. So I just want to put it on your radar there. We had a $5 super chat here. Syrup. Thoughts on Syrup, only 41 cents. Thinking of converting ICP to Syrup. So I hate crapping all over ICP.
Yeah.
Just ICP is in a competitive landscape, so it's going to be pretty difficult for them.
Here's Maple on the this is the all, and we've had this come up a few different times, both in our Discord. Drew and I were looking at it last week. I haven't finished looking into Maple Finance. I know there was some type of drama. I don't know if there was a hack or something, but something happened. I know they rebranded the token.
We're going to talk about Maple Story after this as well.
Maple Story?
Yeah, there's a Maple Story blockchain story here.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
But it is in line with the narrative. It's DeFi on Bitcoin. But again, like somebody was saying in the chat earlier, be very, there's a lot of risk when loaning out your Bitcoin. I look at things like this very conservatively. They're offering yield, obviously, on Syrup USDC. a lot of things, high yield, that always kind of makes me pause, blue chip yield. And these are very conservative numbers. But again, a lot of the stuff that happened on Celsius seemed somewhat conservative when you were talking about Bitcoin yield, stable coin yield. So I always get very, very careful. 7 billion amount borrowed. That's not necessarily a ton when you consider the other people. This would be like a Aave type competitor. I use Aave a lot. I trust Aave. Anytime you're getting into something new, you really need to do a lot of research. So now, obviously, the token recently has been performing fairly well. I mean, this is a strong price there. So wouldn't rule it out. I'm open to it. I just want to be real. You'd want to be real careful when you're talking about yield products on Bitcoin, because you don't want to lose your stack. But
yeah, and I would say do a little deep dive on DeFi Llama. Kind of looking at their fees. Their fees are going nuts. Their revenue also going nuts.
Yeah,
so
that's good.
they're pulling in some. Let me take out that TVL. Okay, so the revenue is the blue bars there. Fees annualized 9 million. Definitely don't put all your eggs in one basket when it comes to earning yield on your Bitcoin, though. I think that's just good general advice. Be careful out there, folks. We don't want to see you lose your Bitcoin. All right, now let's talk about ETH ETPs. Huge influx, the biggest inflow since Donald Trump's election. And we, of course, know what happened the first week in November. Everything started pumping there. So we saw nice inflows. Of course, iBit is leading the way there. So Wall Street increasing their appetite for Ethereum. Again, just be very, very careful with that price level right there. 5 things to know about Bitcoin. I just want to kind of hit these. So the weekly close starting to look pretty good. People are starting to feel good on that. Let's go to the weekly. I want to share that with you. Got all these blue lines. I got some pretty good predictions, I think. All right. Yeah. So the weekly, starting to flip into the green again. Let's go to the 1 hour. What were my drawings or it's because I was drawing the circles there. I did have some drawings. We'll worry about those in the future here. Let's see. Next thing to keep an eye out on is going to be, drumroll please, liquidity. Liquidity is starting to look pretty juicy, but there's a very scary level down to the downside. Right below 90. And so be very, very careful out there. Liquidity order books are wanting to suck it down to 88. I'm going to go ahead and say I don't think it's going to do that, but there's still some liquidity right below our current price action. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a slightly lower low in the near term. Maybe play out that right shoulder that we were drawing out. CPI, PPI is going to be this week. We're going to do some live streams. Make sure you stick around for those. Short-term holders are offering the resistance. So who is selling when you see short-term holders, TJ?
Who's retail, basically?
Paper-handed, the rest of that. Losers. That's what we're going to say. And we're saying sentiment is saying the worst might be over. And so it looks like we're starting to see a little bit of a sentiment shift here. I think part of it is going to be the Musk-Trump feud. Seems like the feud is behind him. Yeah. I don't want to jump into his tweets. No telling what we'll see. But it seems like Elon is like bull posting.
Yeah, he shared one of Trump's Truth Social posts this morning or yesterday or sometime recently with no comment. So seems like they got a little hot, but they're going to probably calm down. I don't think they're going to be best buds again. I don't think it's back to a bromance, but I do think Elon is upset that he got used a little bit. There's a lot of theories out there. I don't know. Did we talk about it? I guess that kind of happened Friday afternoon. We didn't really talk about it on stream.
Yeah, I think Scott Adams had the best take there. Elon has self-proclaimed a little bit of manic behavior, mania, and that seemed to fit right along that so it could just be a little, I don't want to say like full-blown manic episode like driving onto oncoming traffic, but he had a little bit of mania. And if you read any of his autobiographies or seen how he ran his companies, he does go into bursts of mania where he's like sleeping on the Tesla floor and everyone's working like 20-hour days for a 2-week period. Might have just been a little burst of mania.
Yeah, I think he feels I do think he feels a little bit used. I do think he's very disappointed that they're spending that much more, and it makes it feel like everything he was doing was just a waste of time if they're going to come out and spend $500 billion more, or they're going to grow the deficit by $500 billion while he's trying to reduce it. Definitely feels like they're not rowing in the same direction. So it wouldn't surprise me to see them make up, play nice, but ultimately move different directions. I've seen a lot of theories out there. One, that this was all a show to drive the markets down and put more pressure on Powell to cut rates. Others saying Elon was planning this from the beginning. This was all a show by him because he wants to create this other party and run for president against somebody like Vance or Trump in the future. All kinds of crazy theories out there. The other one, this was all designed by Trump because his plan was to print us into hyperinflation anyway, and that's the one way to solve the debt crisis is if you just crash the currency, then it solves the debt problem. Which, to be fair, we did have this. I was going to mention it is how they solved it. Where was it? In the 1980s, they were talking about this. So basically, they're saying the end of the U.S. physical debt situation could resolve itself through the path of least resistance, the way Israel did in the 80s, where you basically just print the crap out of it and then it crashes, and then all of a sudden you don't have a debt problem anymore. But I don't know, a lot of different theories out there. I can't say which one I think is the most accurate. I do believe it was a lot of noise and a show, and I imagine, like you just said, worst of it's over.
Yeah, I would say, as whether or not it was fake, I think there's, some credibility there. But, anyways, let's talk about giant whales. Have the whales given up on Solana meme coins? Is he hanging up his MetaMask, or I'm sorry, his Sol wallet there? Meme coin whales are gone. This is the lowest meme coin volume by whales since February 2024, not 2025.
Interesting.
We're looking at a major decline here, and liquidity is basically fallen off a cliff here. Does this recover? I think it does, but here's the thing: when it does recover, look at this level. So the red line is kind of what we're paying attention to. We're lower than these February levels. Look how quickly it just spiked up, and I remember all those meme coins were just going crazy around this time. And so something to maybe pay attention to. If you see some meme that you just love and you love the community and you think it's funny and you're still chuckling 6 months later when you see a meme, put a little casino money in there, but don't sell your Bitcoin for it or anything like that.
Yeah.
That'd be my recommendation.
Yeah, there'll be spikes and it'll recover. It'll feel like seemingly out of nowhere, but that's where if you just hold a little bit for a long time, it's kind of your moon bag that you hold on to, and then you sell it when you see that crazy spike. But I'm not looking to get deep.
Anthem's active. He spent 50K on a meme coin yesterday, so I guess he's never going to be on the sidelines there. You ready to talk about Maple Story? Did you ever play as a kid?
Maple
game? Story?
No, I didn't.
It was like a pretty large. I remember, me and my first relationship. We lived together. We were like 2019. Her little brother was obsessed with this, and he was on the spectrum. And he didn't have a job. He was a high school dropout. And then the mom threatened to take away his, $20 a month access. He went full mode. He went full he's got to run away from home. He's 19 years old, on the spectrum, but heading out the door, it was a whole thing. So let me know in the chat if you played Maple Story. Some say that was a lot of people's first foray into marketplaces, and how they learn how to trade crypto was learn how to trade on the Maple Story marketplace there. But Maple Story revived an avalanche and topped 1 million daily transactions twice in a week there. So I just want to share. So passing 1 million twice. First time Avalanche has done this since February 2024. Again, right before things started getting pretty exciting there. So if you played Maple Story, looks like it's doing pretty well on Avalanche, and I would say it just makes me a little bit more bullish on Avalanche. Does seem like Avalanche, between Off the Grid, Maple Story, some of the things in this gun subnet, it's kind of slowly taking the lead in the gaming space. And I know there's that Gala guy that always posts about Gala. I'm sorry, I'm more bullish on Avalanche than Gala when it comes to gaming specifically. Even more bullish than IMX.
I was gonna say I'm more bullish on Avalanche than Gala when it comes to everything, even not gaming. So what you got there?
Even I'm not autistic enough to know that damn thing. Good stuff there. Good stuff. I think a lot of people, DZ got the nice talking heads. Hey, I just want to look like I'm, back to ATB days. I guess I'm surprised not more people are playing Maple Story. I was a big Maple Story fan.
I've never even heard of it,
Never heard. It was for the nerds. It was for the nerds for sure.
I guess I'm not nerdy enough.
Let's look at Avalanche on the price chart here. I do like what I'm seeing on just some of the larger time frames here. It looks like potential little bottom. I want to say it's bullish RSI on the weekly here. If I look a little bit, so the bull div was here, played out a little bit. Hopefully this bullish momentum can continue. And if you're wondering, Avalanche recently was right around $55 with the recent pump. But if you zoom out and go way back to last cycle, that thing hit 150. And so you have any Avalanche price predictions here? I feel like 150 is not out of the cards.
No, I don't think it's out of the cards at all.
7.5x.
I think that's actually pretty reasonable to hit like that. That's what's crazy to me is that for these altcoins, that previous all-time high seems like crazy like I think we could, if we see the crazy alt season that we were anticipating, we could see well more than an all-time high. So yeah, I think over 150 Avalanche is what I'm holding out for. I'm an Avalanche holder, and I'm doing exactly what I was saying at the beginning of the stream. I'm trying to move into a more patient mindset, more patient stance. I do think we're going to see a lot of bullish activity over the next 180 days into the end of this year. Like I said, verdict's still out on what my predictions for 2026 are going to be. I need more, data to come in to make those predictions. So far, I'm feeling like, and everything I'm seeing thinks we're going to see continued bullish activity into 2026. I think Avalanche could be beyond 150 in the second half of this year, kind of September, October, November. And then depending on what we're seeing activity wise, price wise there, we could see, that's at that phase. There is a 6 week, 2 to 8 week window, call it 6 weeks, somewhere in there average, where altcoins just absolutely blow your mind. And I do believe people have been lulled to sleep a little bit. They have kind of some PTSD from last cycle that they think we're not going to see the same type of alt season that we have in seasons past. My one hedge is if the true meta and alt season is in things like MetaPlanet and MicroStrategy, they're going to be these micro cap Bitcoin and altcoin exposed treasury companies. It's going to be really interesting to me if we start to see a lot of Solana, like we've already seen some Ethereum treasury strategies, some Solana treasury strategies. If those start to pump like crazy, that's going to be really interesting to me. If we see those outperforming the underlying asset like Solana or Ethereum, kind of like what we're seeing with MetaPlanet outperforming Bitcoin, those could be the new proxy plays. So I'm still waiting to see on that theory, but think about it. That's one. If you're not set up yet, you probably want to start considering how to get exposure to some of those type of things, because I do think that could end up being the meta for this cycle.
All right. I'm hold off on the 50x on guns. I did look at the chart there, but hey, might do well there. Let's see here. We got Steve. I can confirm Avalanche working with California's DMV, and if that takes off, they'll be huge for both Avalanche and the overall crypto space. Anything that shaves 10% off the time at the DMV, I'm going to be very happy. And TJ, I'm going to publicly confront you.
Okay.
You ran a toll in the Chrysler.
Did I?
May 28th.
Did I?
Yeah. I got a letter. I didn't even check it. And Kat looked at it. She's like, I guess she saw the back as I'm reading it. She's like, that was TJ. And I looked, it was like, yep, the white Chrysler hitting that Georgia Peach byline or whatever the heck they call it.
That's right. I'll work on that. We got to get those tags swapped.
So send me some Doge. All right, now let's how about some Tether? Tether CEO snubs the IPO. The Tether CEO says $500 billion valuation.
Whoa.
It's a bit bearish. Small cakes. Don't even get me out of bed in the morning.
Yeah.
I was wondering, what is $500 billion in a list of companies here? Well, we don't have to go too far down. MasterCard right around 520. That's going to put them above Oracle, above Exxon, above Costco, above Procter & Gamble, above Johnson & Johnson, above Bank of America, the Rothschild Bank, above Coca-Cola, above Palantir. And so they would be launching as a very, very valuable company, rubbing elbows with MasterCard and Tencent there, all under the 600 million. So I kind of believe them because they have the highest revenue per employee like in the world, smoking even Nvidia.
Yeah. No, I mean they've got an incredible product that's easy to execute. Like you said, it doesn't require a huge amount of overhead to operate. It's only getting started. Yeah.
I'm sorry I put you on the spot.
No, it's all right. I knew it. I actually deep down, I think I knew it when it happened.
Didn't you tell me?
I don't know if I did or didn't, but I do remember going somewhere and thinking like, oh crap, because I don't know if it's tied to your tag or if it's a sticker or whatever. I'm used to
It
having
was $17.50.
Yeah,
So it wasn't
we'll
anything
get him
crazy.
squared up. Don't worry, chat. We're not.
You know,
gonna
if you
leave.
bought Bitcoin and then check back in 2050. All right, let's look here. Okay, Chainlink. I got the Chainlink news for you. Red alert, red alert. We're not talking Command and Conquer. Chainlink price at risk as whale dumping accelerates. And so we have that here. So according to Sentiment, whale holdings have been in free fall this year. Now stands at 565 million, the lowest level in over a year. And February, they controlled 611 million tokens, meaning they've offloaded almost 50 million Chainlink. Since then, Chainlink, trading around 10, 15 bucks a coin. So we're talking about significant $500 million worth here. And one of them sold 350, one sold $4.6 million worth. And they made a profit of 2.46 million from the transaction. So I just kind of want to say this is short. These are whales that were buying probably with the intention to dump, buying some of that Chainlink under $10, seeing where it's at today and selling their link. Now, exchange balances stand at 193 million, up from 192. So often signal investors are preparing to sell. Now, strong fundamentals. I'm still bullish on Chainlink. In fact, we'll pull up the link chart here. I would not worry too much about whales. Whales always play whale games with Chainlink here. Looks like I drew up the fib extension. Let's go to the daily. Has this been working? Like to the freaking T there, TJ, like a T. I remember, I don't even recall where we made this at, but yeah, if I had to guess when they jumped in, they probably bought in during this dip or maybe even potentially this dip. Jumping in, I still think Chainlink has a shot at hitting $100 this cycle. Sounds crazy seeing it trading at $13 and change. It's just kind of what I'm thinking. The 4236 takes us to 84, probably a potential target right there. Do you have any price predictions for Chainlink next 12 months, 18 months?
No, I think 100 is within reason. I mean, Drew's got some crazy ones up to 300 just based on kind of overall market cap sort of stuff. But no, I think this is another one that we're late in the year when it goes live with Swift and they start charging everybody in Link for using their services. It has clearly found product market fit. It is clearly in a kind of league of its own when it comes to the niche that it's competing for, the market share that it has. It just keeps winning and winning and winning.
Yeah, except for against Bitcoin, it just keeps losing and losing and losing. But I think this is going to turn around.
Yeah, again, almost everything is loses against Bitcoin. True. And that's the whole reason people say to save in Bitcoin. Now,
XRP though.
I do think you will see that thing spike over time at the right time. And I do think, like you said, $100 seems completely within reason. And yeah, I'm still bullish on Chainlink. It's one of the strongest techs, one of the most needed things in the space. And I do think you'll see that payoff come very soon.
Sol Bitcoin doesn't look terrible either. In fact, This kind of looks like a pretty close to like some pretty good levels to be buying. Trading in your, God, I hate saying it, but trading in your Bitcoin for Solana. I will say Solana really likes hanging around. I think it's 10,000 Satoshi levels. Yeah, 20,000. 30,000, 40,000, 10,000. This must be on law. No, it's on regular. And so keep an eye out. So if it shoots up to 20,000 Satoshis, don't be afraid to take a little short-term profits. I would say especially at 30 and especially at 40. I would say dump all your Solana for Bitcoin at these levels there. I said it. Let's see. So Chainlink, Sonium about to go live. They got a gaming incubator. So Sonium still kind of doing pretty well. I still think a lot of gaming companies who want to release games on Xbox or Nintendo might hesitate to use Sony's blockchain. It seems like you're kind of locked into the PlayStation ecosystem. And one last political news here. Javier Milei, he had his own investigation and he found himself innocent. So good job, Milei.
Really? Is that really how that went down?
I think it was actually ran by the opposition party there. But, who knows what's happening in the background there.
No wrongdoing on his part. Good, nice to hear.
Yeah, he was speaking as an economist and not a public official.
Yeah, of course.
Because he used to be an economist like 20 years ago.
Right.
And I mean, sure, he's the president today.
Yeah, right.
But, he's drawing on his information from 18 years ago.
Of course.
Not as his current presidential campaign there. All right. Well, folks, that is what we got for today. Josh is going to be potentially live later on this afternoon. He was up covering the riots all day, everybody. So, that's why he was on the sidelines there. So, hey, if you're out, just touch some grass. But maybe not set a Waymo on fire
Yeah,
when
no.
you're trying to touch grass there.
This is another win for living out in the woods and away from society. You know, you can go out and touch grass. It's actually beautiful in most of the country today, and let's walk away with that. For those of you, don't get sucked into all the negative news. It's very easy to do in the space that we live in. We have to read a lot of news, but there's a lot of negativity out there. But there's also a lot of love, a lot of beauty, a lot of great things to be grateful for and enjoy life today. I don't know where you are, but it's beautiful where we are. We would get to hang out with a lot of really cool people. We all get to hang out and talk about crypto all the time. If you're in our Discord, you get to chat with us and, you know, talk Discord or talk crypto with your friends. So just shout out to the fact that there is a solution, that Bitcoin does provide a way out for most of us. And if you haven't already, make sure to pick up this Arculus wallet, and we'll see you tomorrow.
We just wanted to take a quick second to shout out our sponsor, Arculus. They are a cold storage hardware wallet, helps you secure all of your digital assets for the future. Just tap this thing to the back of your phone and boom, you're in. We wouldn't be able to do this without them, but also wouldn't be able to do this without you guys, the Disco fam. You've supported us a lot over the years. If you want to support the channel now, just use the code DC20. It gets you 20% off this card. It's the #1 way you can support this channel going forward. Thank you for your support. We'll see you at the top.